I think we did well there.
I agree.
Good afternoon. Everybody thawed out. We're still looking for some warm weather.
Thursday.
We need to call the meeting to order. Everyone please stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Please silence your cell phones. Ms. Settle, do you have roll call, please?
Mayor Plummer,
Here.
Commissioner Brooks.
Here.
Commissioner Fields.
Here.
Commissioner Gray.
Here.
Commissioner Galbraith.
Here.
We have a quorum and ready for the transaction of business.
Okay, Matt, Greg.
Thank you, Mayor. Appreciate it. Everyone, I've been advised first thing we need to do is take off the table and bring back before you municipal order number 2025-92 for,
Skip the minutes, yeah.
apologize, let me back up. I got ahead of myself. So first item on the agenda, or the fourth item, actually 4A, regular approval of the minutes for the regular meeting of December 9th, 2025.
So
Do I have a motion? Motion by the mayor.
Second.
By Commissioner Galbraith. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
you just couldn't wait, huh?
I couldn't, again, council advised we need to take off the table order number 2025-92 that had been tabled at the regular session, and place that back on for regular meeting, for this special meeting called today. So if you could.
Need a motion to remove the table?
to take off of the table.
Motion to take off of the table.
A motion by Commissioner Gray,
I'll second.
second by Commissioner Galbraith. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, again, purpose of our special meeting here today, we'll have some discussion regarding the municipal order that we had brought forth regular meeting concerning the joint parks. We could talk about that, but essentially it talks about the renewal of the lease, the interlocal agreement, as well as adds the property, the 1054 Millersburg Road property to the joint ordinance. So that is up for discussion. If you like, I did want to add, after the meeting and subsequent conversations, ask for some additional information. That has been provided to you. We can discuss that. The budget, I think, was, Commissioner Fields had asked for that and some other details. I also have a cover memo which kind of explains that, reiterates the discussions that we've had with the county, a couple of different occasions, as well as there's been a Parks Board meeting subsequent as well. So the topic has been discussed, I think, at least 3 times over the last 3 months. And again, that information is provided to you. I think the budget, some personnel numbers, as well as the presentation that was presented at the joint meeting with the county. We've also provided that. And then our breakdown that Brad and I, we discussed briefly at the last meeting, we kind of put a little bit more detail into that as well, as far as the proposed, or at least the potential budgetary outlay for the next year. Again, with that,
Yeah, just
Brian, you want to add anything?
just a couple things I want to add. I want to make sure I got this right. And Mike Smith, it's Morgan Place. It's not Morgan Place Park. Okay, there's no parking. Okay, so I've got that fixed. So the order does 2 things. It renews the original lease, which was required under the interlocal. We've got that name change included in there. And then second, it's just an acknowledgement by this body that the fiscal court is intending to take the same action and will include a designated portion of the 1054 Millersburg Road park, or as some of us refer to the new park. And that's addressed by the interlocal, that new parks can be added to that. So with that, you just need a motion and a second on the order, and then you all can discuss. Take it from
I'll
there.
make the motion.
Got a motion by the mayor for municipal order. Do I have a second? Is there a second?
I'll second.
Second by Commissioner Galbraith. Is there any discussion? Any further discussion, I should say?
You're pretty well self-explanatory in your
I think-
remarks.
Yeah, like I say, and I hope the cover memo helps. Again, reiterate, and we can talk about that further, but again, Sharon, do you have questions?
Is it finished? Are you finished, Judge?
Yeah.
Mayor? Okay. The questions I had from the last time, I'm still fuzzy about our finances. Even though, it has been said that we can find the money to do what needs to be done. I'm still fuzzy about that. Fuzzy for now and fuzzy for down the line, years to come. Whoever's sitting in this seat or the fiscal court seat, is the money gonna be there to do the development of the park? Not halfway, not clumsily, but is the money gonna be there? I don't think it's gonna be there. That's my opinion. And the other thing, the other concern I had also was still about personnel for now and in the future. Personnel matters depend a lot on finances. Are we gonna have the money to pay the people to do the work that they need to do to run the whole park system? Those are my 2 main concerns. Is there a possibility that we can postpone action maybe for a year of not bringing the new park in? Because I still don't think we've had enough time to talk about this and look at it, even though we've gotten additional information. Last year, we got a report that some of the equipment, playground equipment and all that, when they did the audit, was in poor shape in all of the parks. That needs to be discussed. So I'm wondering if we can possibly ask UK or one of the other state schools that does this, if they could develop for the community a parks and recreation strategic plan, which would include the process of hiring a director, getting our equipment and everything that's already in the other parks settled, getting everything that we might need for the new park. Can we delay this for a year? And if we do, what kind of problems would that cause, if any?
Well, from my standpoint, I think we run the risk of the Parks Board has made at least taken action to have the baseball program at the new park.
Mhm.
And I know the question was brought up, well, why just baseball? I think that's what's kind of precipitated this conversation and the sense of urgency. I think we run the risk of what's going to happen with the upcoming season as far as the baseball and then subsequent other activities. Because from my understanding, the property needs to be added to the interlocal agreement in order for the Parks Board to have legally the authority to have a say in what goes on, at the new property, at the new park, from my understanding, is that legally, in order for the Parks Board to do that, the new property needs to be added to the interlocal agreement, which is what the county has acted, and subsequent action would be required by the city. So can you postpone? Yes, but I think you run the risk of, what's going to happen, not just the baseball in the spring, but other programming that the Parks Board would presumably be involved in.
Well, if it was delayed for a year, couldn't you still have the baseball program at
I
the Garrett Park?
don't know that, again, the county attorney has advised that.
Garrett Park.
At Garrett Park?
Well, I think,
I don't know that anybody, the Parks Board has already made the recommendation.
well, yeah, we made that there wouldn't be any baseball at Garrett Park. I mean, that was at one of our, I guess, not the last meeting before, that there would not be.
So I think that's to answer your question as far as what would be the repercussions. The property needs to be added to the interlocal in order for the Parks Board to again, be a part of not just the programming, but oversight of any potential new employees that the county would bring on.
You said that there was a volunteer who would run the program?
There has been one volunteer who did make a proposal to the Parks and Rec Board. Parks and Rec Board does have a meeting tomorrow to discuss, further questions about the proposal that was presented to us, yes.
Can you tell us officially who presented the proposal?
Andrew Sosby.
Okay.
And to address your other question, just as far as consulting firm or, I think that's where we, the city, would work through the Parks Board as a joint agency to make that recommendation. And if the Parks Board chooses to talk to consultants or works with the county to, as far as plans going forward, then, that could be procured or solicitations. But again, I think we can make that recommendation to the Parks Board and work through them as our, body, a joint body to administer the system as a whole. That's just my thought in terms of the consultant, the UK or whoever it may be.
Brad, momentarily, what do you think?
Well,
In the now and in the future?
So I guess, and I know the judge is here as well too, but Sharon, you kind of had said something about development of the park. Is your concern anything about, what's not developed there now as far as any kind of future plans? Because that's more, I think, in the master plan of how the county wants that park developed, and is not necessarily part of this plan here as far as joining in. I think there would be some additional costs outside of, maintenance, like mowing, and those type of things. But I think as far as development goes, is I don't think approving this puts the city into that,
I would agree.
into that development part.
Perpetual maintenance are we looking at?
Well, that's,
At the new location, well, I think the judge discussed that at the joint meeting as far as, yeah.
Didn't recall.
Limiting mowing and ongoing maintenance, but, yeah, again, I would think that would be either through the Parks Board or with the county.
If we agree to allow the new park to be a part of this, any future planning would be Parks and Recreation Board. And so we've got to have money every time something needs to be added. We've got to have the money, our part of the funds, to make sure that the equipment is there, the people is there, the maintenance is there, the insurance, retirement, all of that is there. And I don't think we will have that money.
So again, just, it's a portion.
Yeah, it's not the whole.
I understand our portion.
It's
I
been
don't think
designated.
our portion will be there right now.
No, not our portion of the money. The whole park is not coming under.
I understand,
control.
I understand that.
And again, and as was said, I mean, I think the professional mention, because the turf, and then, I mean, after 4 or 5 years, I mean, how much, more it's gonna cost to redo the turf and things of that nature. I mean, those are things that's still concerning.
Right.
Concern me as we move along, so.
Yeah, I mean, it's all about, budgeting and moving forward, and there are unknowns. One thing was brought up at the Parks Board meeting, and Commissioner can chime in as well as Judge, about, looking at cost. And if you look at the budget for the Parks Board, we help obviously fund city and county for the parks budget for the mowing, the contracting. The majority of that, if not all of it, is that contracted out mowing is the city in city parks. So maybe that was suggested that we look at, if we could bring that in-house, and us take care of that, for the parks that are inside the city limits. And if we have to work, buy a mower and work with the jail to get inmates, or even if that's a cost saving, or really it's a cost reallocation of, if we can back that out of the Parks Board, that particular third-party contract for the mowing, that's the ways to save. And going forward, Commissioner, I mean, we'll look at any and all ways to save and obviously budget accordingly. So that was, again, what we talked about possibly at Parks Board meeting, us doing the mowing, and that will free up, presumably could potentially free up resources for the county to Judy and her crew to continue to take care of the county park, and then whatever additional mowing that needs to be done, or ongoing maintenance at the new facility. So again, there's ways to save. We're going to continue to work to find resources and allocate, budget dollars, to where that's not cost prohibitive moving forward.
And I guess one other thing that was brought up at I guess the joint county meeting was a land use agreement. Is that a possibility?
Again, I think that would be.
I know we've got,
Parks Board.
I know they've got one with the YMCA. I mean, I don't know how that's work, but is that a possibility?
Again, I think I would, bottom line is the property, whatever needs to be done, or whatever action, or whatever activity that either the Parks Board or any other entity, if the city wants to be involved, the bottom line is the property, the new Millersburg Road property needs to be added to the interlocal in order for that to.
I think what you're asking is it's just what's in the name. You can call it lease, you can call it land use agreement, you can call it agreement, which is what the interlocal says. It's what's really in the paragraph as to what you're doing. So does the board, Parks Board, and the fiscal court have the legal authority to do it? Of course. It's just more of what you're giving, what authority you're giving.
Okay,
Responsibility.
so could that be done with no further funds being put into this?
I don't see how you could do it without funding.
Well, I'm not saying without funding, I mean,
We're already funding.
we're funding this
How much? How much
Yeah.
right now?
16, 18.
Yeah,
16 more.
1660.
So 193,000 annually this year.
16,160 a month.
Well, here, I mean, I guess here would be kind of my comment is, because I know, number one, let's just say future major repairs, because I know there's a roof that needs to be fixed out at Legion Drive.
Right.
But that's not the responsibility of the Parks Board. That, I think, falls underneath the privy of the county. Also, too, I would think if there's any major things that would pop up, like at Garrett Park, that the city would be responsible for that major repair and not necessarily the Parks Board.
But what happens
As of
in
right-
5 years if you've got to replace the turf at the new park? Is that gonna be, outside the
I cannot answer
monthly
that
cost
question,
of,
and
you see what I'm saying though?
no,
about
I understand
perpetual
exactly what you're
maintenance and
saying.
is that gonna be in 5 years from now, whoever's sitting here has to come up with 50% of turf field?
You all pick every budget every year. You only fund things year to year.
I understand.
So whatever,
But I also we need to think about the people that are gonna be sitting here in the future, because this decision will be made.
yeah, but it's not binding. I mean, this is the funding, every budget every year for every interlocal is a year-to-year thing. At any point in time, you guys can, triple it or cut it to a third.
And that goes for every line
Right.
item in our budget.
Every budget, yeah.
I didn't mean to interrupt you, Commissioner Brooks.
No. But the roof is, I guess, because we're beginning to get bids for that, isn't that split between us and the?
I don't think that is, because that was one of the conversations
That's what
G Davis had at that one meeting.
So basically what you're saying, the parks that are within the city limits, a large portion of the maintenance is gonna have to be taken care of by the city. Parks in the county,
I had suggested backing that contract, that mowing contract out of the parks and rec budget and us bring that in-house and do it possibly more cost effective
okay,
than having to pay for the mowing contract, outside mowing contract.
Okay.
As a way to save going forward. So, and then coordinate with county jail or if we need additional personnel, buy a mower that's certainly cheaper than, the 20,000. I think it was 40,000. 40. So 20 and 20. That's going into the Parks Board.
So Brian, you can kind of correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I'm looking it up.
But let's just say like the city or the new pavilion wants to be built on Garrett Park. The city would be responsible for that, not the Parks and Rec Board.
It's all subject to discussion.
Yeah.
So
Right.
if the Parks Board says, hey, we've had 40 requests for picnics, we think we need a new pavilion, it's gonna cost 20 grand. And we'll be happy to do it. At that point, then it's part of the budgeting process under the interlocal. And then it goes to the city and county and they decide if they wanna fund it or not. The board cannot spend any funds toward construction of a capital project without prior approval of both the fiscal court and the city commission through the budget planning process. So anything new is subject to discussion between the two bodies, and if they don't agree, one could pay for it on its own property, but it's not. And we all heard this before, you all can't take an action now that binds a commission in 4 years or 10 years. Or whatever it may be. Capital projects are defined
as a cost of more than $20,000 and an expected life of 5 years. So if you want to have like a threshold amount, I think, is a roof more than 20? Probably, but maybe not.
The only thing I was gonna say is there's capital expenses, then there's, operating expenses. And basically, all that line items we see are really operating expenses.
Correct. For the parks.
For the park
joint parks.
currently.
Yeah.
And operating expenses, personnel and all, you know, pensions and all that stuff, gasoline and stuff like that, mowing and mowing contracts and things like that, because that's really what we're funding.
Correct.
We're funding right now.
Yeah, and I was, again, referring to ways to where we can offset cost or balance the budget going forward. And Mike and I have talked about, looking at new play equipment in our neighborhood parks, and that we would, work on a budgetary plan to do that annually. So that would be our responsibility to do, to improve the, in-city neighborhood parks. But again, all that has to be budgeted, and it all is subject to, final approval by you all ultimately on an annual basis. And that would be like, Brian was saying, and Brad, it was, we wanted to build a pavilion, or again, add new pieces of equipment to any of our parks, then it's all part of the budgetary process, so. Any further discussion?
Does anybody out here have any questions? Is anybody out there on the Parks
Sure, I
and
can.
Rec board?
Anyone from the Parks and Rec board like to speak, or the judge? Then we can ask the public, members of the public. Judge, did you have anything?
I'll be glad to share that.
If you want to come up, Judge, you care to come up? Yes, sorry. We want to make sure everybody's heard. Sorry. Thanks, Marissa.
Thanks, Marissa.
Thank you, and
Yeah, you're good.
thank you all, and certainly thank you for pondering the question and giving thoughtful consideration for what's going on. This is an action that you're being asked to consider that fiscal court has taken. Fiscal court did vote to add the venues at 1054 Millersburg Road that have been developed to the list of responsible properties, if that's the right way to say it, Brian, that the Joint Parks and Rec Board is responsible for. And obviously, as Chairman Brooks indicated, the Parks and Rec Board has voted to express a preference to have the youth baseball season on that property. That board has taken that action. But in order to do that, for that board to have that responsibility, the Paris City Commission has to agree to add that property. That's my understanding, Brian, what the interlocal agreement says. And G. Davis's perspective too is that we don't have to pass ordinances since we're just adding property to the list that already is part of the interlocal agreement. Did I say anything wrong? So
No, that's right. I mean, we already, that's what their local is you can take or add parts.
So from the fiscal court's perspective, what we voted to do to add that property, those venues, which would be what we call the court sports venue, which has been built and is being used. That's the tennis courts, the pickleball courts, and the basketball courts. And the project that is under construction now, which are 2 paddocks, is what the architects call them, multi-use fields, that with the expectation that those fields will be can be used for baseball, soccer, or any number of field sports. And it does have an artificial turf on it, but we made that decision. That's a significant investment. That turf does require regular maintenance. The manufacturer of the turf, and that's true whether it's, Paris or Bourbon County schools and their artificial turf fields, they have to do maintenance periodically. And the manufacturer will tell you, if you ask them, they told us, if you do regular maintenance, they'll last 5 to 8 years. Or excuse me, if you do regular maintenance, they'll last 12 to 15 years. If you don't do the maintenance, they'll last 5 to 6 years. So potentially any artificial turf does have to be replaced. Our expectation would be that would be the responsibility of the fiscal court, because that would be a capital improvement. That artificial turf costs just under $500,000. That's what we spent to put that artificial turf on. The court voted on the proposal with the expectation that it would come under the jurisdiction, and the Joint Parks and Rec Board would have the authority to say what happens on that property, just like they do today with those properties that are listed in the interlocal agreement. That means the Joint Parks and Rec Board would have the authority over the court sports venue and these new fields that are under construction that should be completed, depending on weather, possibly by the end of this calendar year, but at the latest, as soon as the weather breaks in the spring, for sure. The major work is completed. So the fiscal court has an expectation for it to come under the jurisdiction of the Joint Parks and Rec Board, which is what we partner on. And that would mean that their budget, as Sam was mentioning earlier, is an operational expense to schedule activities, which will be a major need. If we have youth baseball, youth soccer, whatever would happen, whatever that board would decide happens on that property. Could be, last year we had the regional tennis tournament at the court sports venue. The Parks and Rec Board would have the responsibility for having someone in place to schedule those kinds of things. That's what the fiscal court's perspective is for those operational expenses, just for those venues, nothing to do with any of the other part of the property. There's 329 acres there. These two venues make up very little. So we're not asking the city commission to share the cost of development of the property. And I have since 2010. This has been going on since June the 15th, 2010. And the week after that, I asked the city government of Paris to partner with Bourbon County Fiscal Court to buy land and develop the property. And the Paris City Commission has been asked on a regular basis since June of 2010 to be a partner with the fiscal court in development of this property. Our goals, the goal has always been to enhance the quality of life in Bourbon County, as well as to enhance the potential for economic impact in Bourbon County. Not everyone agrees that a park or recreation complex has that effect. We can all have different opinions. I understand that. But it is my opinion, it has been since 2010, that this is a good investment to make for the future. And indeed, initially, and Sharon asked me the other day, initially the projected cost of developing 399 acres was $40 million. Well, that's probably $100 million today. We all understand that. Fiscal court didn't make the investment to buy the land. We spent almost 5 years searching for the right property. This property came available, and the court at the time agreed that we were ready to make that investment, and we borrowed money to buy the property. It was $2.5 million, $2.6 million at the time. We also borrowed money to develop the court sports venue, and we're, of course, we're still paying the bonds on a regular basis. Now, the current construction project, as shared with you before, is being paid for by money, federal and state money. We were challenged to hang on to our ARPA allocation, which was, at the time, we received that, whatever year that was, 2022 or 23, 22 maybe. It was just under $4 million. And once the federal treasury allowed us to put it in interest-bearing accounts, it's now something over $4 million. So we've hung on to that money. Not every county did. A lot of counties spent that money once they knew and they had the green light from the Treasury Department that you can spend this money for whatever you want to spend it. A lot of people spent it on payroll, they bought fire trucks, they bought ambulances, they did any number of things. And certainly we had the flexibility to do that. We chose to hang on to this money for an investment in the future. And that's what this park is, without question. Now, the current construction project has a cost of $6,893,000, whatever that is. So we're using our ARP allocation, which has to be spent by December 31st of next calendar year. And we also appealed for and were fortunate to receive a $3 million allocation in the current state budget in the current biennium, thanks to Representative Cook, Senator West. We've also made an appeal to the current budget process, which a lot of folks are saying may not be as hopeful as we might have seen 2 years ago. But we've asked for $5 million again. That's what we asked for 2 years ago, and we received $3 million plus another $400 and some thousand to build the turn lanes that you see at the park entrance now. That was built by money that was in the state budget that we were granted from the legislature. So what I'm trying to say is the current construction project is not borrowed money. It's coming from federal and state money that has been given to the Bergen County Fiscal Court for the reasons I've described. So there is no additional capital expense for the Bergen County Fiscal Court, which is a good thing. We certainly understand that there are other things we need to do to further develop those properties. Number one is a permanent building, restrooms, concession stands, store maintenance, equipment storage, those kinds of things. We understand that, and we and the planning committee, which has been in place since 2010, intend to have a capital program. In other words, we're going to ask folks not only in Bergen County, but from around the state to make an investment in this property by contributing money. We have an agreement in place with the Bluegrass Community Foundation, which will allow you to contribute money to the Bergen County Park and have the benefit of the tax deduction, however that works. That's been in place for a couple of years. We're prepared to work to raise money. Tony Sosby is the current chairman of the planning committee, and that's what we talk about almost every meeting. I think Tony would agree. Bill Alverson started that conversation indeed when he was chairman of the committee. We agree that there are a lot of folks that potentially can contribute money to the development of this property for the benefit of everybody in Bergen County. That's still our goal, and we intend to do that. It would be really tough for me to ask the fiscal court to borrow more money to further develop this property right now. I understand that. I get that. And we have about $5 million in debt right now for this property, and we're able to take care of that right now, for sure. I believe we have been good stewards of the related to the investments we've made in the property. We have not put the county government at risk as far as being able to pay our bills, but it continues to be a challenge. Again, the only action that the fiscal court has taken is to add these two venues at this address to the interlocal agreement. To have for the Parks and Rec Board to take responsibility for the operation of these two venues. That would include, again, any youth activities on the under construction property today, and it would also include the activities that we may want to take care of in the future at the Course Sports venue, which is being heavily used. I haven't seen any pickleball players in the last 4 days. But before the weather turned bad, 3 days a week, there was about 30 women playing pickleball at 5 o'clock in the morning, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday on that property. And there's kids playing basketball almost every evening. Did see some kids playing basketball on this property Saturday afternoon, and it was pretty rough Saturday afternoon. Again, both our public schools were offered access to the tennis courts. The Parish High School tennis team did not use them. The Bourbon County High School team played all of their home matches on that property. They also hosted, at the request of the Harrison County Schools, the regional tournament. But one of the notable things about the Bourbon County High School tennis team using those courts is that for the however many years, the last several years, none of the Lexington schools would come to Bourbon County to play a tennis match. And almost every home match they had the Lexington schools involved, because we have a facility that meets what they consider their standards, and certainly the standard of the Kentucky High School Athletic Association in that property. That's a positive thing. So we would hope in the future that we would continue to gain recognition as a good place for kids to come, as well as adults. And certainly that doesn't discount what we already have accomplished with our cross-country course has been championed and advocated for and basically built by the Bourbon County High School cross-country team, their coaching staff. We've held the state cross-country championship twice already on that property. I want to mention that this is not part of the consideration. That particular part of the property is not part of that consideration, but because that's not the permanent course. The intent of the design, the master plan by the architect is not follow exactly the current course, but the coaching staff, Bourbon County High School, administration, Bourbon County High School have supported that. We've had twice the state championship there. We've had national cross-country meets there. Plus, the Bourbon County High School cross-country team has, I think, all of their home meets there. It's a recognized course. The motivation for us to do that was to gain some recognition for this property and let people know that it existed. That's how we started, that it exists. It's a good place to come to for your children and for spectators to participate. Looking to the future, indeed, 10 years from now, 20 years from now, whatever that is, we would hope that we would still maintain that reputation, that this is a good place to bring kids to compete. And also, if you're considering coming to Bourbon County with your business or just to move to Bourbon County, whether it be Paris or out in the county or in North Middletown or Millersburg, that this is a facility that is available for all Bourbon County citizens. and D, enhancing the quality of life for all Bergen County citizens. That's our priority. The economic impact is a bonus that certainly can come from that, and we're hopeful in regards to that. I cannot see into the future. I do not have a crystal ball. I'm hopeful that it's going to work out that way. It may or may not. I wish personally, and you've heard me say this, that someone in county and or city government 50 years ago, 60 years ago, 70 years ago had thought this way. They did not. They did not. They did not think about the future. They did not make any accommodations for the future, what young people and families needed for recreation. But we can. And certainly that's been certainly part of my personal motivation. And I hope 30 years from now, 40 years from now, that people will say the Bergen County Fiscal Court and the Paris City Commission did the right thing, working together to develop this property on behalf of our citizens. That's my hope. I wish I could tell you exactly what things are going to cost. I cannot. But we cannot determine exactly what we're going to spend on the EMS function or the E911 board or planning and zoning or economic development authority. We don't know. We can budget it, as Brad mentioned earlier, as we have the responsibility to develop budgets every fiscal year, and we do that. We work together to do that. I said in the workshop and our joint meeting before, and it is the truth, we are fortunate in Bergen County that our city, our largest city government and the fiscal court have been willing to work together for certainly many decades to partner on the important things. Not every community is that fortunate. There are some communities around Kentucky, and I'm sure all over the United States, that just are very contentious. They don't want to work with each other. They don't like to work with each other. They don't want to support what the county doesn't want to support what the city wants to do. The city doesn't support what the county wants to do, and that doesn't help anybody. We have been historically very fortunate here in Bergen County that the Paris City Commission and the Bergen County Fiscal Court have worked together on so many things. And who knows, a year from now, 2 years from now, there may be something else that we're needing to work together on. Now, I understand the Constitution does not require the city government to do almost any of the things that you do. At some point in our history, this community made the decision to incorporate and take on responsibilities themselves. I understand that. So everything that you do on behalf of Bergen County and your city is a gift from the Paris City government. That's the truth. It's the county government that has the constitutional responsibility to provide a fire department, whatever, law enforcement, ambulance service, whatever that is. It's the county's responsibility. The word city is not written in the Constitution of Kentucky. Is that right, Brian?
Except for franchises, that's right.
Okay. But it's the county government's responsibility. And that's the same thing with the public schools. I won't get into that. The Bergen County Board of Education has the constitutional responsibility to educate every child that exists, that lives within the borders of Bergen County. The Paris Independent School Board has no responsibility other than what they have chosen to take on. That's why they're called an independent school board. It's the Constitution requires the county Board of Education to do that. None of us in this room are going to change any of that. So the Bergen County Fiscal Court welcomes the cooperation and the partnership with the Paris City Commission on anything that we're doing together. And we certainly, at this point in our history, would welcome the Paris City Commission's cooperation on this. One question is, do we want to add this property to the interlocal agreement that we already have in place. The biggest impact is to the Joint Parks and Rec Board. Wallace Brooks may not realize that, but we're talking about putting a lot of weight on his shoulders, right? And his colleagues on that board. Because we put that board together. That's the only thing that we're deciding. Go back to it. Do we want that board to have the authority to say what happens on that property? That's the only thing we're considering.
Well said, Judge, and we are partners and
I agree.
I agree, at least from as administrator. So any further discussion from the commission or questions of the judge or the Parks Board or members of the public?
Just point of clarification.
Yes,
You're
ma'am.
saying that you can't have baseball.
Can you stand up?
Can't hear you.
Can you not have baseball at the new park unless you
Correct.
vote?
That's correct.
That's.
That legally, that property has to be, or portion thereof needs to be added to
So
the
you can't
interlocal.
have baseball unless this board agrees.
Well, it would go back to the Parks and Rec Board and they would need to
And
make a
then,
decision.
will the Parks Board hire a director, and that's what is decided? It won't be in the fiscal court's responsibility.
There will be a county employee that would go through the Parks Board process, and then ultimately it will be a county employee, just like the current structure, so. Right, and that's correct, Judge, as I'm not saying anything that we
The
have already
interlocal agreement
discussed.
says that
multiple
anybody that
times.
works on the park property is a county employee.
Yes.
Yeah, so it would be the responsibility of the county government to hire someone based on the recommendation of the Joint Parks and Rec Board,
Okay. Thanks.
just like it is with our other interlocal agreements. Either the county or the city employs the people that actually do the work. And that's for, how would I say that, Brian? For payroll purposes, benefits, those kinds of things. Based on the interlocal agreement, Tom Cook and Gordon Wilson, who are EDA employees, interlocal agreement says they'll be county employees. So they are literally paid by the county government. They're on the county payroll. Their benefits are based on what the county decides what the benefits are, and any other employee-related direction comes from for administrative purposes, from the county government. Now, their work direction comes from the Economic Development Authority Board. That's who gives them direction on what they should be doing day in and day out. You agree, Stan?
Right, no, that's right. And one other thing I was going to just mention is, the same is true for EMS. All the EMS employees are city employees, because
And
city,
911.
and 911, we pay them through our payroll system.
Yeah.
Then we get reimbursed from the county.
We have another question?
From the
From the
board.
board, yes, from the board, but I
From the
mean,
joint board.
via the county, yes.
Both the city and the county make monthly contributions to all of those entities.
Both of those, that's right.
An equal amount. The interlocal agreements all say we pay 50-50, right?
Yeah, so my question is that, I think in the last meeting that we had, either last week or the week before, we talked about not only like the budget we were having, but also this order to add it to the interlocal. The voting today, does that have anything to do with the budget that was on that agenda? None of it?
No.
Okay, so that was that just like an estimate?
It's an estimate, it was kind of like a,
So we're not agreeing on a budget, it was just an
No.
agreement to add it to the interlocal.
that'll be taken care of through the normal budgetary process, budget cycle coming up.
I just remember it bringing up the last meeting. I just wanted to-
Yeah, I wanted to share the numbers that was presented at the joint meeting and then present that.
And then we just did some additional research. So I think really, that Mayor, to answer some of your questions while the judge is sitting up here at the table, right now, just adding this property in does not significantly impact the Parks and Rec budget, right? Because right now, both city and county put in 16,000. But I do think, though, adding this property into the Parks and Rec board ought to force that Parks and Rec board to work with the county to get a parks director, program director hired. If we're looking at, something like that, then that's, potentially $5,000 extra per month whenever that person is hired. So, and like the judge says, you can't really project right now what a cost is going to be. Obviously, looking at mowing, potentially having people out there to pick up trash, keep it looking nice. Some of those can be hard costs and can be projected as soon as we get some contracts or some bids or proposals in there. But right now, there's not a significant change until I think like a parks director, program director is brought in. And then Sharon, I think that kind of gets back to yours. That gives that person a chance to start doing a strategic plan for the whole county and for the whole city to start developing something as far as, what kind of programming for Parks and Recs. And then the other thing then too, I think that it comes back to the Parks and Rec board. We haven't put anything into any projections as far as user fees. If there's going to be certain events going on out at that park, does the Parks and Rec board want to try to collect user fees, like they do for picnics or, birthday parties and things like that that would offset, future contributions or those user fees, have some kind of a set aside to help pay for future maintenance. I think those are just some things that you have to throw out there that.
And those are all questions that we'll hopefully have answers to tomorrow.
Yeah.
So the planning for the cost, if the concern is about additional costs, it will be for the personnel primarily. But the Joint Parks and Rec Board already is planning to reduce expenditures by, number one, a mowing contract and paying for someone to run his baseball program. They've already taken action not to do that, and that's $77,500 expenses that the Joint Parks and Rec Board is intending to reduce, which hopefully would help balance any additional expense related to adding these venues. Did I say that correctly, Wallace?
It'd be about 75,000.
Yeah, and we'll continue to work with the Parks Board and the county and try to find other ways to save and as well as find new revenue as well, so. Which speaks to Brad's point. Any other discussion, any further discussion, I should say? I thought we have a motion in a second. Any further discussion?
Do I get a vote? Do I get?
No, Judge, I'm sorry.
No.
No.
Clear enough.
We have a motion in a second. Do a roll call? Okay. Madam Clerk?
Mayor Plummer,
Yes.
Commissioner Brooks,
Yes.
Commissioner Fields,
No.
Commissioner Gray,
Yes.
Commissioner Galbraith.
Yes, ma'am.
Motion carries.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Anything else to come before the board? If
Special
not,
meeting,
I'll-
special meeting,
That's right.
special meeting. I move to adjourn.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Galbraith to adjourn, second by the mayor. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are.
You have to go to Boston with the bank.